Miss head baseball coach Mike Bianco joins us right now. And, Coach, big series win, top 15 team coming to your place. Friday night doesn't go particularly well, but your guys battled back and won with the long ball on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, one of those, weekends, mixed bag. Obviously, you'll take the wins and, against a really good opponent in Maryland. But Friday night, I thought Jack, Doherty filled in for Hunter, pretty well. Maybe not his, his best outing for sure, but kept it close. But then, the bullpen, we weren't good enough to keep it close enough, and obviously they extended the score. But the way our guys bounced back on Saturday and Sunday, I was proud of them. And Saturday we were behind most of the game, and then had two big innings, at the end, much like Sunday, where we just kept extending the lead and then really pulled away at the end.
What did you learn about your team this weekend?
Well, we're always learning, these first 4 weeks and, throughout the season. But it was nice to see us, handle some adversity. Losing on Friday, coming back and winning 2 games and having the toughness to do that. 2, without, 2 of your better players, and Hunter Elliott, DJ McCants missed the first 2 games because of a death in the family and was at a funeral. And so, maybe a little undermanned, that we would hope that we would be when conference play starts, and our guys handle it well. On the other end, we still got to learn more. We got to be better on the mound. We got to cut down the free passes to the other teams. But there were some bright spots. Even when we didn't pitch it well, it seemed like we didn't let it get out of hand. And for the most part, especially in Game 2 and Game 3, to give ourselves a chance.
Speaking of your pitching plans, so you just got done with a 3-game set. You get a day off, then you have 2, and then you have a day off, and then you have 3, and then you have a day off, and then you have 1. So how are you going to manage your pitching staff tomorrow and Wednesday? And are you making any changes at all for any reason on the weekend to help kind of balance the number of games you're playing in such a short amount of time?
Well, the quick answer to that is no. I think where we are. Not that it's set in stone. I mean, obviously it's always fluid, but right now I don't see a move to make with the weekend rotation. Those guys, some of them haven't pitched great. Some of them have pitched better than probably their numbers have looked. But the truth of the matter is, I think at this point, what they've done in the program to this point, 6 months into it, through fall scrimmages, we need to continue to do that and continue to grow that. Tomorrow we'll go with the JT Quinn again. But the next 2 days, the next 18 innings, I think is critical for us to kind of give some guys some more opportunities on the mound. I think hopefully you'll see Mason Morris out of Tupelo that hasn't been able to pitch yet, and maybe a couple other guys that maybe have only been out an inning or 2 to kind of get their feet wet and see what they can do. So we're not going to announce the Wednesday starter yet because a lot has to do with, to be honest with you, what happens tomorrow night.
Mike Bianco joining us on the Farm Bureau phone line. Coach, you mentioned TJ McCants and had to step away from your team for a couple of days to go to a funeral, comes back, hits a towering home run. Before I ask you about the home run itself and what came after, what do you make of his performance on Sunday, coming back from yet another just tragic situation in his life to play like that again?
Well, it just breaks your heart. I mean, he's just a tremendous young man, and I think death is tough for all of us to deal with. But when you're such a young person, and it happens to your mother and then your grandmother, in the midst of 6-7 months, it's a lot on his plate. And but he knows he's loved here, in this program, and he comes back, and this is probably his happy place, right? And I watched him do it last year, where he had to step away for a week and go visit his mom when she was very ill, and came back and hit a home run Friday night against Arkansas. And so he's a kid that's super resilient, just super proud. And again, these moments, these are real. I know We want to play baseball. We want to win a lot of games, and we want to win championships. But at the end of the day, it's a baseball game, and there's other things that these kids go through that I think sometimes we're not aware of, and so your heart breaks for them.
So he hits a towering home run. I mean, no doubter, right off the bat. Stares at it for a little while, and a little jawing happens, and that's all it ended up being. After that was just a little bit of jawing. But as a coach, how much of that do you attribute to edge, and how much of that do you want to allow or rein in, or did you have a talk with your team after that? How do you feel about that kind of stuff now in baseball with the bat flipping and things like that? Where do you fall?
Probably somewhere in the middle, and I made a mistake. I wrote it down and forgot. I meant to talk about it Sunday in our pregame about Anthony's, bat flip on Saturday, which, I thought was, a little much, like if you're going to walk halfway down the baseline, then just toss your bat to the dugout and, let that be the end of it. But that was probably the start of it, because those are the things that, the fans love, and, but sometimes it can be a little much. And so I'm all right with a little bit of a flip, or I'm all right with a guy standing there a little bit. But, sometimes, there's a lot of emotion, and what you'd hate to happen from it is something negative, right? That, a kid gets into a shoving match, in a fight, and next thing you know, they suspend you, and you end up getting 5 games, 6 games, 7 game suspensions, because in baseball, they're a lot longer. The reason is they want it to impact, a weekend or a week's, worth of games. And so because we play so many games, a lot of times the suspensions are a lot worse. As you notice, like last year when, John Gaddis threw at a hitter for Texas A&M, got suspended 5 games, and almost finished the year for him. He wasn't eligible to play until the championship game down in a regional. So, I think you just got to be careful. That's the thing I worry. Obviously you don't want to show up the other team. I'm all for celebration. I'm all for energy and emotion, but you want to try to rein it in to a point where it's respectful, And one of the things you got to be careful of is you can't sit there and celebrate it and say how cool it is, from a player standpoint, from a coach's standpoint, and from a fan standpoint when you do it. But when the opposing team does it, you take offense to it, right? I mean, so, at some point I think it's probably best to be somewhere in the middle ground. And you're right. I think probably on the internet it was probably blown up a little more than it was. The catcher had said something to him. He said something back to the catcher, and that was really the end of it.
You have a fan favorite, at least I think you do. Your football player who happens to also play baseball, Malone. You gave him an at-bat on Sunday, and at the time, what was still a rubber match in a closely contested game. People have asked us time after time after time what kind of role he will have on this team. Was that a sign for you that you think you've got some confidence in your defensive tackle to give you quality at-bats against big-time opponents this season?
Well, remember, he's not my defensive tackle. He's Lane's defensive tackle. He's my first baseman. I think it's a sign that shows that he's worked really hard and he's grown in this game. But I think the role is still being developed. We don't really know, and that's, again, I know it sounds like coaches speak, but we're still trying to figure out who are going to be the guys. Not only at start, obviously the lineup changes from weekend to weekend and game to game, but who are also going to be those guys that come off the bench and do certain things, pinch hit, pinch run, come in as defense replacement, and so on. And we're still trying to develop that, but there's no doubt that Ty's in the mix, and he's worked himself into that. Last year I think it was just he had missed with COVID and football and everything else. He had missed so much baseball that he fell behind, but he's worked hard. He's worked hard in the off season. He's worked hard in this early part of the season to give himself some more bats and some more opportunities. So we're going to try to get him in there as much as we can so he can show what he can do.
Coach, we got about a minute left, and we appreciate your time. Have you ever played or coached a game in a football stadium before?
Yeah, we were up in Minneapolis and played in this exact tournament when it was in the Metrodome. I want to say probably 06, 07. when I was here, but remember that kind of went back and forth as a baseball football dome, and so it was really set up. We also played there in Minneapolis when I was an assistant at LSU in '95, and then played in the Superdome several times, which probably will be closer to this, where it was really a football stadium that you play baseball, where the dugouts are a little makeshift and all of that. But the thing is, it's 90-foot bases, it's 60-foot, 6-inch mound. Yeah, maybe the dugouts aren't, major league standard, but at the end of the day, you're playing inside, thank God, because we're in Minnesota, and, it's going to be against some really good competition.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Coach. We'll talk to you next week.